The Count of Monte Cristo, originally published by Alexander Dumas in 1844. This is a shortened, adapted version of it. The Pharaon comes home. The Ship Without a Captain, Chapter 1. A little boy first sighted the masts of the ship Pharaon. She was coming home to Marseille, France, with a cargo of cloth and dyes. As usual, a crowd gathered to watch the docking, an exciting event in 1815, for the handling of big sailing ships was an art. But the Pharaon proceeded toward port so slowly that onlookers felt something must be wrong on board. Monsieur Morel, the owner, was overjoyed to hear that his ship was home. Now he saw that a tall sailor stood beside the wheel where old Captain Leclerc should have been. Morel ordered a rowboat. He wanted to know the bad news at once. As he neared the Pharaon, he saw she was under the command of Edmond Dantes. Edmond ordered a rope dropped, and his employer climbed aboard. He looked anxiously into Edmond's dark, intelligent eyes that were now full of sympathy. "Bad news, sir. Captain Leclerc is dead and buried at sea. He came down with brain fever after we left Naples, Italy. He was raving toward the end, so I gave the crew orders from then on. Your cargo and ship are safe and sound." Morel heard the news with many changes of expression. Though his captain was dead, before him stood a fine replacement. Edmond Dantes was tall and strong and knew the sea. His handsome face was sunburned from many voyages, though he was only 19. Morel shook Edmond's hand and thanked him. "I must consult my partner, but I think he will agree with me that the new captain of the Pharaon will be you." Edmund's face lit up with happiness. "I hoped, sir, that I might have a chance. The crew and I are like brothers. Not one resents my youth, and—" Edmund stopped, and his face clouded. He was watching a man who had come from below and was now walking toward them. The newcomer was a grim-faced man about 26. "This is Monsieur Danglars." Edmund corrected his last statement. "There may be one who is not like my brother. Please excuse me, sir. I must give orders to drop anchor and dock the ship." Danglars greeted his employer with a great show of respect. He glanced around to see that no one else was listening before he said, "Monsieur Morel, I must report the mishandling of the Pharaon. No sooner was our wonderful captain dead when this Dante seized command. Then he lost us time by putting us into the island of Elba for no reason. The ship needed no repairs. Perhaps he merely wished to have a stroll ashore after being so long at sea. He is very young, you know." Morel frowned. That was very wrong, but as for taking command, he had the right as first mate. Danglars, it was a good experience, since he will be the new captain if my partner agrees with me. Danglars' grim face concealed his disappointment at these words. He wanted to be made captain himself, mainly because of the increase in salary that went with it. When Morel questioned Edmond about the stop at Elba, he found the young man's answer satisfactory. Just before Captain Leclerc began raving from his fever, he had ordered the stop. Edmond was to report to Napoleon in Leclerc's place and obey any orders the Emperor of France gave. When Morel heard Napoleon mentioned, he looked around uneasily. Napoleon had been stripped of his powers, and now lived in exile on Elba. But there were many Frenchmen who worked in secret to restore him to the throne. Morel was a businessman, and did not involve himself in politics, so he asked no further questions about the visit to Elba, and cautioned Edmund not to mention it to anyone. "Captain Leclerc said the same thing to me," said Edmund, "and if you had not asked me, I would not have told you about Elba. Now, sir, may I request a leave of absence? Danglars will see to the listing of cargo." Morel smiled. "You wish time off to get married, I believe. I have heard that a lovely young woman named Mercedes waits for you impatiently." "Permission granted." Edmund's delight at this praise of Mercedes' beauty and faithfulness showed in his wide smile. "Yes, sir, we expect to be married at once. But first I must go to Paris to deliver something." An hour later, Edmund was running up the stairs to the tiny apartment he shared with his elderly father. Monsieur Dantes embraced his son and gave thanks for a safe return. Much as the father wanted to hear about the voyage and to enjoy his son's presence, he knew that another shared Edmund's love. "Go to Mercedes now, my boy," he said. "I will prepare a special dinner for us." As Edmund hurried to her house, Mercedes was having an unpleasant talk with her cousin Fernand, a soldier. She had endured the same conversation many times since Edmund had sailed. It was Fernand's proposal of marriage. Each time he proposed, she would refuse him, and reminded him that she loved Edmund. Then Fernand would lose his temper, draw his sword, and wave it wildly, swearing to kill Edmund. Sighing at a familiar scene, Mercedes would threaten him again and again that if he hurt Edmund even slightly, her cousinly love for Fernand would change to hatred. Now Mercedes repeated what was always her final statement: "I will never marry anyone but Edmond Dantes." At this moment Edmund entered and heard her declaration. Mercedes sprang up with a cry of happiness and rushed into Edmund's arms. They kissed and pledged their love anew. Mercedes' eyes shone when Edmund told her he was to be the next captain of the Pharaon. Forgotten in the background, Fernand watched the lovers with bitterness. He hated Edmond Dantes with all of his heart, but he could do nothing about it.